Hey everybody, it's Greg Martin here. Strap on in and put on your big boy pants. It's time to listen to Pop Goes Your World with Derek Myers and Chris McBrien.
If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.
And now it's time for our feature presentation.
I'm Chris McBrien, and the pop culture from Generation X is everything to me.
And I'm Derek Myers, and I'm here to educate Chris on the great pop culture of today's generation.
Episode 256, The Big Lebowski Movie Review. Chris McBrien along with Derek Myers, and this is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. Back to a movie review this week. We've been looking back on films celebrating major milestones this season on the podcast, and Derek wanted to take a look at The Big Lebowski from 1998. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, so it should be good. Before we get to that, though, Derek, what is new in the world of pop culture for you, my friend?
Hey, Chris. Well, I actually had a chance to watch a bunch of movies this week, a couple old ones, a couple new ones, and even a documentary, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So I'm going to start new. I watched the new movie starring a whole bunch of people, including Matt Damon.
There he is.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Had to pause for the drop. I knew that was coming. Called Air. This is about the Nike signing Michael Jordan and the Air Jordans and all that. Hence the movie's called Air. It's Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, and a slew of other people that you're going to recognize. Directed by Ben Affleck. It's available now on Amazon Prime for free. It actually came out in the theaters not that long ago, but you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It's really good. Now, I read the book Shoe Dog, which is about Phil Knight, who is one of the founders of Nike, last year, and it's fantastic. If you have the chance to read it, it's great. And so Ben Affleck is portraying Phil Knight in this. Although he's only in it a small parts of the movie, it's still really good. And I think a lot of us maybe are familiar with Michael Jordan's history and how and why he went to Nike. There was that fantastic documentary series on Netflix, The Last Dance, which in that there was a whole part about him signing with Nike. So I don't think the story is going to take you somewhere you're not familiar with, but it was really good. And you had an all-star list of performers. So quite good. Strong recommendation from me. Air, available now on Amazon Prime. Then we're going to go into our Wayback Machine, 1952, Turner classic movies. I'm ready to go to bed one night last week, and I said, hey, let's just do a quick run around the horn and see what's on TV. Just starting Singing in the Rain. So guess what I did for the next hour and 45 minutes? I sang along to Singing in the Rain and didn't get to bed till 1:30.
I remember that was one of Yancey's favorite movies, too, when he was on the podcast.
I mean, I'm not a big musical guy, but this is one of my all-time favorite musicals. When we did our episode on top 5 musicals, this was absolutely, I think this was my number one. This movie's just so good. It's funny. Like a lot of the humor still holds up, even though the movie takes place in like the 30s and 40s and was obviously made in the 50s. And movies from that era, even the performances are very different than the performances of movies today.
More theatrical.
Very much so. And it's a song and dance picture. It's literally one of these, I called it a picture. Like it literally is a picture as opposed to like what you would see in today's movies. It's just so good. I mean, the all-star cast thing with this, it's got Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds and Donald O'Connor. Like this movie's just great. It makes me smile every time I see it. And I know all the words to all the songs. It makes you happy to watch this movie. I love it so much. So that one. Then we saw, I'm going to jump back and forth. So then we saw another newer one. So from 2021, I can't remember if we watched this on Amazon Prime or on HBO. It's called The Harder They Fall from 2021. It stars Jonathan Majors and Idris Elba. This is a movie about cowboys. It's a Western, but it's an all-black cast. And it's based loosely on real people and real events. And it's not your typical cowboy movie. Like, all we've seen for 60 years is all about white folks being cowboys. Well, here's a movie about people of color and how and what they did in the time of cowboys. It was really good. It was, I thought it ran a little long. It's 2 hours and 19 minutes, but it's good. The way the director shot the movie, it feels very modern, and it uses a lot of new music, a lot of hip hop, a lot of rap, but it's done in such a way that it like really fits, even though it's an old timey cowboy movie. So if you have a chance to watch The Harder They Fall, it was really good. I had a really good movie week this week. And then the last movie.
Hold on. One thing I just want to jump in. I think it was in the 90s. Mario Van Peebles came out with a Western film. I want to say it was called Posse, and it featured an all-black cast.
Oh yeah, 1993. Mario Van Peebles. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm not 93. Familiar. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I'm just looking it up now on the IMDb. Interesting. And then the last one.
Simpsons did it.
Simpsons did it, exactly. And then we go back to 1989 to see Paul Newman in a loosely historical drama, Fat Man and Little Boy, about the atomic bomb and the development of the atomic bomb. Yes. Part of the reason I wanted to watch this was that this summer there's a new movie coming out called Oppenheimer, and it's oh my God, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Christopher Nolan directs it, and it has an absolute A+ all-star cast. It's already getting awards buzz, even though like it hasn't even come out yet. And it's obviously going to feature a lot of these same events. So this one that I watched from 1989, Fat Man and Little Boy, stars Paul Newman, stars Dwight Schultz, who people might remember from the A-Team as Howlin' Mad Murdoch. He plays Oppenheimer in a dramatic role. He's really good. It's got John Cusack in a supporting role, Laura Dern in a supporting role, Bonnie Bedelia from Die Hard. She's in a supporting role. Natasha Richardson. It's got John C. McKinley, who we all know and love as the mean crotchety doctor from Scrubs. It's got a pretty big cast, and there's a lot of performers that you recognize that have smaller parts in it. And again, it's sort of historically accurate. I'm sure they took some liberties, especially in 1989. I'm sure they had to downplay some of it. So I wanted to watch it as almost like a little primer of what's going to be coming out in this Oppenheimer movie this summer, which is, again, I'm really looking forward to. Is going to get a lot of good buzz, but I don't watch trailers, so I'm trying not to ruin that. I just wanted to get a sense of what it was going to be about.
Nice.
And then finally, a documentary. Finally.
For 40 days and 40 nights, he watches documentaries. He likes to learn about the world. It's Derek's Documentaries. Derek's Documentaries.
It's funny. Our producer Sloth played back for me one of the takes that I did on that song there, and one of the first takes I did was just so bad. Not that one was good, because my singing is so awful, as you know. But anyway,
nice.
What was the documentary?
All right, the documentary I watched, it was on Amazon Prime, and it's called Judy Blume Forever. Chris, as an educator and a parent, I'm sure you are familiar with the author, Judy Blume.
Oh, of course.
Yes. Judy Blume is a very famous author of children's books. Obviously, she eventually wrote books that were more for adults later in her career, but she broke onto the scene.
Coming out as a movie like now, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why. So the book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which is probably one of her most famous books. It was one of her first books. I think it might have actually been the first book that she had published. It's being turned into a movie, which is coming out shortly, which obviously the documentary dropped a few weeks ago now for exactly that reason, because there's, she's in the spotlight, her intellectual property is in the spotlight. So this was a good opportunity to present this documentary. I didn't read Judy Blume growing up. I was aware of her existence, and I had friends that read her stuff, but in my circle of friends, it was mostly the girls that were reading the Judy Blume books and not so much the boys.
Yep.
Even though she did write books that featured male characters. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing apparently is a fantastic book, which I, again, remember seeing people had it, but I never read it myself. So watching the documentary was really educational for me, just to learn more about what all her books, sort of were about, and how and why they were so important when they came out. And then apparently, especially in the 80s, she had to deal a lot with censorship in the U.S. And so there's a huge part of the documentary talks about her championing her books as well as other books, and against the moral majority that came into power when Reagan took the presidency in 1980. But no, it was a fantastic documentary, and she just seems like such a great person. And the documentary does a really good job of just presenting her as a real person who just seems so pleasant and so positive. And there's tons of testimonials throughout the documentary, some from just regular people who wrote her fan letters over the years, and some from people who have gone on to be authors themselves, writers and directors and performers on the screen. It's just a really feel-good documentary about someone who has lived a great life and produced all of this great art and has so many millions, literally millions and millions of fans around the world. And so many people grew up reading her books. It's fantastic. It's called Judy Blume Forever. It's on Amazon Prime. If you're not a big documentary person, I still suggest give this one a try. You'll know within 10 minutes if it's for you. But if you've read any of Judy Blume's books and they hold a special place in your heart, you're going to want to watch this documentary. So I had a great week for movies.
Nice. So, Derek, I want to touch base on a bit of a touchy subject here. Okay. It has to do with plastic surgery. So,
okay.
I've noticed a few examples recently of female actresses who've elected to get plastic surgery. And I know this is an age-old thing in Hollywood. And I'm not here to criticize these women for doing it. In fact, I guess it's kind of the opposite. So I just like to say, I think it's sad that we still live in a world where these women feel that they have to get plastic surgery to still get work in Hollywood. And like, you're the one that's always mentioning how far we've come and how different things are now, compared to back in my day, and all that. But one thing that clearly has not changed is the pressure that female celebrities are clearly under to get plastic surgery and not just be able to age naturally. So this started for me when I started watching that show Shrinking, because you mentioned that show to, the one that's on Apple Plus a couple weeks ago.
It's funny you bring that up. I literally talked to someone an hour before we got on the air, and I suggested they turn it on tonight and start watching it. I think it's great.
It's a great show. So I started watching it. And it's really, really good. But what stood out to me was Krista Miller. So she's gone and had plastic surgery, and she's almost unrecognizable. And the thing is, I think for me, I'm kind of hung up on the fact that I know her best from the Drew Carey show. And I know it's just a character that she played on that. But her appeal seemed to be that she had this kind of tomboy vibe about her, and now she looks all weird. And I'm sure a lot of people saw Madonna recently. She was in the news. Madonna could walk right by me on the street. I wouldn't even have any idea that it was Madonna, So, and the thing is, I understand getting a nip and tuck here and there, but Madonna's face is completely different. She's like Fred Ward in Remo Williams.
They just shaved off Madonna's mustache.
That's a bad example because he didn't change at all, right? Even though he said he did. So, but you know what I mean? Like, and I want to be clear. I'm not trying to come down on the women for doing this. It's a shame that they feel the need to do this, and I think that's on us as a society, right? Like, is it just misogyny at play here? I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know.
I think you probably hit your nail on the head with that one. But again, I don't think you and I are the right people to have this discussion. I mean, I'm sure it's the white men that have been in power forever that are the biggest cause of this problem, and it, forcing body images, body shaming on people over time that they feel they need to take drastic steps to accommodate the appeal of the perfect, most beautiful form.
Renee Zellweger might have been one of the cutest girls I've ever seen back when I first saw her in Jerry Maguire. And now she's completely unrecognizable. And I saw an ad for the new sequel for the Scream movies. And Courtney Cox doesn't even look like Courtney Cox anymore, for crying out loud. And one of the reasons I just want to bring this up is because after reviewing the movie for this week, Julianne Moore is in The Big Lebowski, and she's just let herself age naturally over the years. I think she is more beautiful now than she was when she was younger. And I get it. Not all women are going to age the same, but that's okay. It's just a shame that, I think a lot of people just don't agree with that, So these women are like pressured into altering their appearance. And ultimately, they're altering their legacy. And let's be honest, if you're a celebrity, you're establishing a legacy. You know, that's one of the things about creating art, right? Like when you live forever, you know. Derek, long after we're gone, people will still talk about this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
We will live forever in infamy, you know.
For sure, yeah. In infamy, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, speaking of which.
Here's your dad joke of the week.
All right, Derek, did you hear that the latest sequel in the Fast and Furious franchise is now in theaters?
I did.
Yeah, it's called Fast 10, Your Seatbelts.
Oh, man. I had to buckle up for that punchline.
Fast 10, Your Seatbelts. Oh, man, I'm lame. Hold on, I gotta open a beer. I
need to take a big swig of mine too.
Let's have a drink because this is gonna be a lot of fun.
Almost like a pirate radio guy during the war. Like
I just go back and watch Meatballs and Stripes and Smokey the Bandit and all those shows that I love.
Instead of playing a bar, they should have played like a minor league hockey arena.
Yeah, he's a young man, drive me crazy with this stuff.
And that wasn't cool.
Long Duck Dong.
For those of you who have not been keeping count, I have.
Jaws, Star Wars, and Raiders of the Lost Ark are my 3 favorite movies of all time.
Holiday wrap.
Yes, we're going to ring reggaeton for a holy day. All right, so this season, Derek and I have been going back and reliving movies that are celebrating major milestone anniversaries. And this time around, Derek wanted to go back in time 25 years, back to 1998, and review The Big Lebowski. I had never seen this film. So it's always interesting when we review a movie that one of us hasn't seen. But Derek, you could have picked any milestone year at all, any movie for that matter. So why did you go with The Big Lebowski?
So a couple of reasons. I wanted to do 25 because although 20, 30, 45, 35 are all technically milestones, you usually measure the milestones by 5-year increments. 25 is a pretty big one. No matter what it is you're celebrating, 25 is usually considered a bigger deal than the 20th or the 30th. The 25 always seems to be the magic number. And we've sort of been tap dancing around this. So I wanted to hit the actual 25th anniversary right on the head. And then I look back to 1998. We've actually reviewed a handful of movies from 98 already. Or the ones that we were considering, you and I had both seen them so many times that we sort of thought, well, that sort of makes for a boring show if it's just two guys going on about how great the movie they think it is. So I wanted to try and find something that maybe you hadn't seen before or that you didn't have a passing familiarity with. And this one checked that box. You told me you had never seen it, and it had been on my short list of movies to watch for a while now. But again, this isn't a movie that everyone's going to love immediately, including myself. I didn't even really love it the first time I saw it. It took a few viewings before it sort of warmed up for me, which is why I hadn't really jumped into it before now. But you know, we wanted 25 years. This hit that mark, and I just thought it was the right time. So that was sort of the genesis of why I wanted this one, and because I know that this is a movie that is very polarizing and can be very confusing upon a first viewing. So I thought it would make for a good discussion, depending on what your outcome was. But I'll be honest, I watched this again with my wife on the weekend because we both love the movie. We've probably seen it 10 times or more, but it's not one of those ones that you would throw on all the time. So I even asked her, I said, like, how long has it been since you saw this? She's like, probably about a year. And I figured for me, it's probably been between 6 months and a year. But we sat down, we watched it. We recited some of the dialogue because it's got some good quotes in it. And we laughed in, a bunch of the parts. And then as soon as the movie's over, she literally turned to me and went, I'll bet you $100 Chris hates this movie. And I was like, I am not taking that bet at all. But with that being said, Chris, what did you think of The Big Lebowski?
You weren't taking that bet because you thought I was going to hate it too, right?
I thought you were going to hate it.
All right, so here's my take on this. I'll be honest, I am not the world's biggest Coen Brothers fan. I find them to be really hit and miss. Like No Country for Old Men, Fargo, both amazing. Raising Arizona, I just didn't get. Burn After Reading was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
I've never seen it.
Oh. But as a film buff, that scene in Blood Simple where the gunshots are coming through the wall, when the shafts of light are coming through the holes, that's pretty friggin' cool. So coming into this movie, I didn't know what to expect. Like, it could have gone either way. So, unlike my usual biased self, I tried to come in with an open mind. I thought this movie was pretty good.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I said that to Kay after.
Actually, really damn good to be actual.
Wow. And that's what I said to her. I said, well, Chris is a film guy. He may, even if he doesn't care for the subject, may be able to appreciate it from that sort of artsy film point of view. And she's like, no, he's going to hate it up and down. So I, for the first time in a long time, I'm going to be able to go to my wife and say, honey, you were wrong.
Yeah, you should have taken that bet. And the thing it might surprise you, I think I liked it not for the reasons that you might think. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to dig into this a bit tonight. But here's my major takeaway from this movie.
Okay.
It's less of a cohesive film than it is an attitude, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't think it was a conscious decision on the part of the filmmakers. I think if you look at the complexities of the script and all the twists and turns and all these quirky characters, I think the intention of the Coen brothers was to make this cohesive film. But what they ended up with was 2 hours of an attitude. And that is 100% due to the performance of Jeff Bridges.
Oh, no question.
Any other actor, and this would have just been a loopy movie about, a loopy guy caught up in a bunch of loopy plot twists. But Jeff Bridges sort of lifts it above all that and makes it kind of, I can't even explain it really. It's kind of like a hippie, slacker, roll through life attitude that is really the theme of this film. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And I think that's a big part of why it's had the legacy that it's had, because from my understanding, this did not do well in the theater financially on its initial run. When it came out on video, though, it really started to find its legs. And so I was working at Blockbuster when this came out. And when it first hit, it was sort of a slow burn. And then as word of mouth started to spread, it really picked up. We couldn't keep it on the shelves. When it finally became available as a sell-through product, it was constantly being sold out. And as people started to get DVD players and such, this always seemed to be something that people had in their very modest collections as one of their first, 10 or 20 DVDs they would buy. It's one of those ones that people that like it really like it, and they would just watch it again and again. I think partly because it's sort of that stoner culture movie. And if that's the kind of person you are, it's like, well, I'm going to, smoke up and watch this movie. But it's so much more than that. And I think exactly to your point, it's just the attitude of the character. It's like, what do they say? It's almost like a lifestyle. It's like you watch it and you're like, you're either in awe of what the dude can do while doing nothing, or maybe you're envious of hey, there's a guy that, just despite the hardship, things work out, or maybe you hate him. Maybe you're like, that guy needs to get a job. So it's just, you can look at it from so many different angles.
Yeah. And I think if your biggest takeaway of this movie is that this is about this slacker dude, I think you've missed something, because it's not just about him being a slacker dude. First of all, he's too old to be a slacker dude. So we've seen slacker dudes in other movies. Guys like Sean Penn and Fast Times at Ridgemont.
I was just about to say, this isn't the Pineapple Express or Fast Times where it's just, your dude.
Or Bill Murray in Stripes. Yeah. I always think of him, Mm-hmm. Jeff Bridges here is not just a slacker. He is way more than that. I think it comes out later in the movie. The scene when he's in bed with Julianne Moore, and she asks about his past, and he mentioned that he was a co-author of the Port Huron Statement. So he wasn't a lifelong slacker. He was part of the Students for a Democratic Society.
Yeah.
Right. And that group was pretty ambitious at the time in the early 60s. I was a poli-sci major back in the grad days, so I love this stuff. But that group, it kind of petered out. Right. They were all ambitious. They're going to change the world. And then they just kind of fizzled. And I think a lot of that was because a lot of the members started to grow up, and they started to realize that they couldn't change the world, Mm-hmm. So it started making me think at that scene of this guy is not so much a slacker, but maybe he's just somebody who's come to accept that the fact that the world it is what it is. And he just might as well go along for the ride,
Yeah.
And I think the whole Port Huron Statement thing was a really important part of the script, because it helped you understand where this character came from, why he became what he was, And then that plus Jeff Bridges' performance is what stands out in this movie for me at least. That was my takeaway.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, even though on first glance you might think, oh, this guy's a loser, this guy's a stoner, this guy's just a deadbeat, he does make decisions along the way that would indicate that he is a smart guy. Like, he starts to put the pieces together about like what's going on. There's all these different plots and twists going on, and it's clear that, you know, even though he's probably either drunk on his White Russians or he's high from what he's smoking, he's not like a complete just deadbeat, you know, idiot.
And although he drinks throughout the film, like the White Russians are a big part, you never see him drunk.
Right.
You know, so I think that's an important thing too. So
yeah.
All right, so as far as the film itself, so it's obviously directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. It was made on a budget of $15 million. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January of 1998. It was released in the United States on March the 6th of that year, and it made over $46 million in worldwide box office grosses. But to your point that you made earlier, it only grossed $17 million in the U.S., which put it at 98th place at the domestic box office. Although it did finish ahead of Blues Brothers 2000. Although that's not much of an accomplishment.
Yeah, I was going to say deservedly so. But
God, that movie. But it finished ahead of Krippendorf's Tribe.
Oh, I've seen that. Richard Dreyfuss.
Basketball.
I've seen that one too.
Yep. It also finished ahead of Twilight. Not the vampire one, though.
No, the Paul Newman one.
Yeah, the Paul. I didn't even know there was a Paul Newman one.
I worked at Blockbuster, man. I watched all of those movies in '98. As soon as it hit the shelf, we'd take them home and watch them. I've seen all of those.
So, needless to say, The Big Lebowski wasn't exactly a huge hit with mainstream audiences.
Initially.
But it wasn't exactly a hit with critics either. I mean, it was nominated for a few obscure international awards, but nothing major. You know, the movie just kind of came and went with little to no fanfare. Mm-hmm. And really, like you mentioned, it wasn't until years later that it's grown into this cult favorite, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and again, the performers that are in this movie, after this movie, a lot of them did a lot of great work that sort of, as they started to become more famous, people went, well, what else have they been in? And then you sort of forced you to go back and go, oh, look who's in this. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's a good example. He's a great performer. He's got a very small part in this. Mm-hmm. And he like 4 or 5 years later after this, he wins an Oscar and people are starting to go, oh my God, this guy's actually really good. What else has he been in? And then you start to look back at his work. Julianne Moore, again, she was in Boogie Nights the year before. I think Boogie Nights was 96, 97. So she got this. And then again, over the next few years, she starts getting nominated for Oscars. She starts winning awards. And then people are like, what else has she been in? She's great. Where's she been all this time? And you go back and you find a movie like this. And I mean, John Goodman, that guy's good in just about everything he does. Steve Buscemi's another one. You know, he starts doing things. I mean, he's been a character actor his whole life, but he's on Boardwalk Empire. And suddenly it's this huge prestige cable show. And everyone's going, well, let's go back and watch his previous work. So you've got these performers that are great actors, but maybe you wouldn't necessarily at the time consider them A+ movie stars. Like, you know, mm-hmm. If you said Tom Cruise is coming out in a movie, you're like, well, I'm going to see it. It's got Tom Cruise. At the time, you said, hey, that new Steve Buscemi movie's coming out. You're not like, well, I'm going to see it because of that. But now you look back and you're like, hey, this movie's Julianne Moore and Philip Seymour Hoffman and Steve Buscemi, all in sort of smaller supporting roles, starring Jeff Bridges and John Goodman. You'd be like, geez, with a cast like that, it's got to be good. I got to give this movie a try. And I think that's sort of how people came to it, and that and the word of mouth. Like the people that liked it really like it. This movie really seems to be polarizing in that sense. And one of the things that I love so much about this movie is it's got so many little excellent segments that it works well on something like YouTube, where you can just post, here's a 1-minute segment from the movie. It's got this great scene with these great quotes and this great performance. And those are the kind of things that constantly get shared around on the internet. And so when I watched it this week, it was, you know, so many of the lines we were like, oh, that's where that's from. Like, you know, you and I do this too. You make a pop culture reference and everyone sort of goes, oh yeah, that's a great reference. But you sort of think to yourself sometimes, I don't remember where that's from. And I say that all the time. This movie is like that for me. There was a ton of stuff in this movie that when I saw, I'm like, oh, that's where I pulled this from. So no, it's good. It's really good.
So you mentioned the cast and you mentioned some scenes. So let's dig into some of them. So let's start with the cast. So Jeff Bridges, like I mentioned, he's the best part of this movie. His performance makes this movie what it is.
Yep.
And it's funny because when I think about Jeff Bridges, I think about him looking like this.
Yes.
And not so much from this movie because like I had never seen this before, but mostly like this is also how he looked in 1976's King Kong. The remake.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The remake that Dino De Laurentiis made with Jessica Lange. He's got that long beard and that kind of hippie look kind of going on there. But this guy has done a ton of stuff. Like, if you think about like Starman and Tron, like he's been nominated for 7 Oscars. Like, it's crazy, you know? And I mean, he's won one, you know? I mean, he won for Crazy Heart, right? In 2010. But I mean, he was nominated all the way back to 1972. He was nominated Best Supporting Actor in Last Picture Show. You know, and then he was nominated in 75 for Thunderbolt and Lightfoot and then in Starman and stuff. So then the guy's Hollywood royalty too. I mean, his dad is Lloyd Bridges. His brother's Beau Bridges, you know, and he's done lots. I mean, he did the Fabulous Baker Boys with Jeff. So Jeff Bridges, you know, we cannot say enough about him, but I want to talk a little bit about John Goodman for a second. This to me is hands down the best role of his career. He was outstanding in this movie.
He was really good.
Outstanding. I mean, sadly, he did this the same year that he did Blues Brothers 2000. So let's just say that consistency ain't his thing. But man, was he ever good in this. I mean, you just believe that he's this sort of typical gullible American redneck bowler who believes in conspiracy theories and like waves a gun at you know, like, and funny enough, I read somewhere that the Coens, they didn't allow any improvised lines to get into the script, except for one. When the dude calls Big Lebowski a human paraquat.
Okay.
Other than that, one line that they let in. Everything else was scripted. But the thing was, to me, a lot of the dialogue feels like it's improvised. You know, I don't know if it's the pacing. They almost seem to like talk over each other at times, especially in the scenes with the three of them with Steve Buscemi, because they're like, "Shut up, Donnie." Like, it's just, I don't know. I thought John Goodman was fantastic in this. He was great.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't personally care for his character, but I liked it. Like, I liked the performance, and I think that's the whole point of it. He's not supposed to be likable all the time, and I kept saying to Kay, I was like, we're watching, and I looking over and I say, why would these two guys be friends? And then of course, after they sort of have a little spat, then the next scene, they're like lockstep. They're doing whatever it is together, and they're exactly on the same page. It's like, oh, that's why they're friends, because he puts up with his BS, and then, you know, they move on, and then he does something stupid again, and then they move on, and it's like, oh, that's what friends are for, right? So
Steve Buscemi, it's always been amazing to me that this guy has been able to carve out like such a long career for himself. Like don't get me wrong. I think he's incredibly talented and unique, but he's got such a unique look, and the sound of his voice, it just doesn't seem like he's the kind of actor with a ton of range. You know, like he doesn't seem like he has the ability to play like widely different characters, you know, and he certainly isn't leading man material. And in this movie, he's kind of relegated to the sidelines. He's like kind of like a punchline at times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly not your traditional Hollywood handsome by any stretch of the imagination, but he's become such a great character actor. Yeah. You know, he plays heroes, he plays villains, he plays the supporting guy, he plays the creepy uncle, he plays, in this case, is like he's just one of these three guys, but every time he tries to say something, John Goodman is just right in him, you know, shut the hell up, Donnie. And it's like, but just yelling at him, like right in his face. And Donnie just takes it. And so there's a fan theory online that Steve Buscemi's character of Donnie doesn't really exist. He's just a figment of John Goodman's imagination. Oh. It's like a schizophrenic something or other, and nobody else can see Donnie, but everybody understands that that's just a quirk of John Goodman's character, and so they ignore it. And there's only a couple. But then
the scene at the end when he spreads his ashes, he got it in the dude's beard, so he definitely did exist.
Yeah, so there are only we were watching for it specifically this time too. There's only 2 scenes where the dude seems to acknowledge Donnie, but you could, if you really wanted to read into that, you could sort of go, well, although he responds to what he says, it also could be a response to what somebody else has already said. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting that the dude doesn't actually talk to Donnie like through the whole movie, even though Donnie's there almost the whole time. It's this interesting dynamic between these three very unusual characters.
Julianne Moore, I want to mention. I think she is one of the most beautiful human beings I have ever seen in my entire life. I don't know what it is about her. She just has this intangible charisma about her. And she started out in smaller, more like indie movies. Like she was in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and Benny and June. I think The Lost World was really her first big mainstream Hollywood role. But Boogie Nights is obviously the one that made her this critical darling.
Yeah, that's
She's been nominated for 5 Academy Awards. She's won one.
I was going to say, she won one, though, didn't she? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she won. But again, it was in 2015 for Still Alice, one of her like lesser performances. I would think a little bit more of like here's a career award kind of thing for her. Because I mean, some of her other stuff was better. I thought Boogie Nights, she was great. We should probably review Boogie Nights this year sometime. It's celebrating 25 years. Or did it come out in 97?
I think it came out a year or two before this. But
okay, so
yeah, but I agree. Julianne Moore's great, and she always plays such interesting characters, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. So you were talking earlier about Philip Seymour Hoffman. To me, he was a bit of a standout in Scent of a Woman, and then he did Twister and Boogie Nights before he did this movie, and then he obviously went on to like have a critically acclaimed career. Cut short by his death when he was only 46, but he was nominated for 4 Oscars as well, and he obviously won Best Actor for Capote in 2005. Yep. That was one hell of a strong year for nominees too.
Yeah, no kidding.
He won. Terrence Howard in Hustle and Flow that year was fantastic. Heath Ledger, Brokeback Mountain, Joaquin Phoenix, Walk the Line, and David Strathairn for Good Night and Good Luck. That's a lot of good actors in 1 year. Really. Oh my God. I think the thing that I liked the most about Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie was his physical resemblance to the Big Lebowski. He looks like he could have been the guy's real son.
Yeah, that's definitely. I hadn't really considered that, but you're absolutely right.
That had to be a choice by the Coen brothers.
Oh, for sure.
They've got a pretty keen eye for casting and characters, and I don't know. He looked like he could have been his son. Like that was what kept sticking out to me. So,
anyway. Speaking of lookalikes, we're watching the movie, and halfway through, my wife turns to me and says, "Do you not think that Chris looks a lot like the Big Lebowski?" And I was like, "No." And then the next scene we're watching, I'm like, "Yeah, kind of a little. I mean, the hair's different, but I can see the resemblance." So, for better for worse, we think that you look a little bit like the Big Lebowski.
So David Huddleston.
And I'm not talking the Jeff Bridges character.
Yeah, you think I look like David Huddleston. Yeah. I always thought he looked like Fred Thompson. The guy that used to be, he was a U.S. Senator and they went into acting. He was in Law and Order.
Yep. He was in the one I just watched, Fat Man and Little Boy. He had a small part.
Yeah. So David Huddleston reminds me of Fred Thompson, not me, but the way he talks, his voice is so unique and recognized. Did you recognize him from anything? Because
I honestly, I recognized him from an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, no, he was in Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
Olson Johnson. Remember, he was like, "What are we made of? Our fathers came across the prairies, fought Indians, fought drought, fought locusts, and we didn't give up by then. And by gum, we're not giving up now." And then later, when the black and the Asian settlers want some land, he's like, "Okay, we'll give them some land." Well, he doesn't use the word them.
Yeah.
He's like, "But we don't want the Irish."
Jeez.
And everyone argues. They're like, no, we got to let everybody in. So he's like, prairie shit. All right, everybody.
Jeez.
I recognize him right away. And you think I look like him? Oh, my God. Oh,
I didn't see it.
Your wife does? Oh.
I didn't see it right away, but Kay saw it.
Oh, we got to have a talk. I don't know about that. I want to talk about John Turturro as well. I'll be honest. I am not a huge fan of him. He always rubs me the wrong way. And I know he mainly plays unlikable characters, kind of like you mentioned with John Goodman. Like John Goodman, unlikable character. And then that's fine because you can just say then he's a good actor. You make you hate the guy, right? But I've never liked John Turturro in anything until now. He was fantastic in this movie. Like
in the purple jumpsuit.
Fantastic. Oh my God. He's got this like small part. and he doesn't really have a whole lot of screen time. But boy, does he make the most of it. His character had me laughing constantly when he was on screen. And it was a bunch of stuff all put together. So first of all, his name, Jesus, not Jesus.
Yep.
Jesus. So that alone made me laugh because when you first see him, he's got the bowling outfit on, that purple jumpsuit that you mentioned, and he's got his name embroidered on his left breast. And I just assume when I see him, it's the Spanish pronunciation of Jesus.
Yeah.
But no, it's Jesus. And his accent and his mannerisms. And that could have been really, really crappy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. He was amazing. Like his dancing and the voice and the way he's all cocky and challenging the guys. It's like, dude, it's bowling. Like, get over it. So I thought he was fantastic in this. You?
And in that scene, they've got the song, the Hotel California, but the Spanish rendition in like the mariachi band style. And again, the first time I saw it, I'm like, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, me too. I was like, what is this? And it wasn't until they said Hotel California. I'm like, oh my God, there it is.
Yeah, that's totally what it is. Yeah, no, that scene works so well. It's so good. And just that creepy thing he does with his tongue on the bowling ball, like that. I remember that was in the trailer. And it's like, we're watching it and my wife's like, oh, that's so gross. And I'm like, but that's the point. He's supposed to just be repugnant and repulsive. And then he strikes and then he like does the dance to the music. Oh yeah, no, that's, again, it's like a 2.5 minute scene, but it's just so good.
And John Goodman, I think at one point accused him of being like a pedophile or something, but you don't know what to believe because John Goodman is this conspiracy theorist guy.
Yeah.
And who knows what's going on. Also, Tara Reid, I want to mention, I thought she was perfectly cast. Because that role called for like, it had to be an attractive girl.
Yeah.
But it also had to be one that was kind of dirty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Tara Reid just comes off as this kind of sleazy, promiscuous girl. Probably not a real stretch for her, maybe in the acting department. I don't know. But
well, the scene where he meets her when he's leaving he's leaving the Big Lebowski's apartment, he's carrying the rug, and then she's like, blow on her toes. She had just applied the nail polish, and then she makes him the offer, and he's just sort of like, the dude doesn't know what to do, and then she's like, for $1,000, and then she turns to Philip Seymour Hoffman. Brant can't watch, or he's got to pay $100.
Right.
Oh my God, I laugh so hard every time I see that. Partly because of the line, like it's just a funny line, but Philip Seymour Hoffman's reaction as Brant to that is just hilarious. And then they start leaving, and the dude just turns back and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go find an ATM. And it's just like, oh, I laugh so much every time that I see that scene.
Also, I did want to give a shout out to the guy that plays the nihilist, Peter Stormare.
Yes.
I recognize him from Fargo. He was the guy that was putting Steve Buscemi in The Wood Chipper.
In The Wood Chipper?
And he was also in Seinfeld.
He was? I don't remember him in Seinfeld.
He was in the episode where George is trying to move the Frogger video game.
Oh, I don't remember that one well.
He was Slippery Pete. I remember like George was talking about the outlets, and Slippery Pete calls them the holes, and he's drinking milk and stuff. So I remembered him right away.
I always remember him from Armageddon. He was the Russian astronaut that they get off of the space station when they go to refuel.
He has been a working actor for like ever.
Oh my God, he's in so much stuff.
Working. Like he just works and works. Yeah. But great cast. I think is the
so
conclusion
good
here. So I asked you, does the movie hold up, do you think?
Oh, absolutely.
25 years later?
Like I said, the first time I saw it, I didn't love it. I liked it. I didn't love it. But there was enough there that I wanted to watch it again. And so many people I knew loved it. And I found as I watched it a couple more times, I would pick up more details out of it, and I would be able to like relate to some of the scenes a little more. And I found that that's part of why I like it is as I get a little older and as I sort of move more into the demographic of the dude, I could start to understand more of like what we were saying about his perception of the world. It's almost like he's just like, well, what difference can one man do? Nothing. I'm just going to just do what I want to do as little as possible, stay out of everybody's way. I'm going to go bowling. I'm going to, listen to my Creedence. I'm going to get high. I'm going to do whatever. It's just like, as I get a little older, I start to be like, man, I could sort of see the appeal of that. I wouldn't necessarily do it, but, again, he's got a couple of close buddies. He's got his routine. As a 20-year-old, this didn't really speak to me at that level, but now almost 50 years old, I'm like, he might be onto something there. So I think it really holds up.
In terms of it holding up and like being dated or whatever, I like how in the scene when the dude first goes to see the Big Lebowski and he uses, somebody uses the derogatory term Chinaman. And Philip Seymour Hoffman says, that's not the preferred nomenclature. The term is Asian American.
Yeah, that's when Walter's talking to him in the bowling alley. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So any scenes that stand out to you? One that I want to mention.
Yeah.
I like when the scene when they're in the bowling alley and Smokey steps over the line.
Yeah.
And he goes, mark me down for an 8. And John Goodman calls him out.
Yeah.
And then John Goodman gets all worked up and he pulls out a gun in the bowling alley. And he's like flashing this gun around. He's like, am I the only one around here that cares about the rules?
Yeah.
The rules. He pulled out a gun.
But what I really love about that scene is we as the audience don't see whether he stepped over the line or not. So we have to decide, do you think he really did? And John Goodman's character literally saw him step over the line and is trying to uphold the order? Or do you think that, like so many other things in this movie, he's just off his rocker? He wants to make a scene, and this is the way he's going to make a scene. I don't know. It can go either way. You can make the argument for either side of it. But I love that this scene, as great as it is in the moment, has ramifications down the line of the movie where they talk about, like later in the movie, he's getting on his answer machine and there's all the messages. And it's like, hey, I don't want to be a jerk about it, but I'm reporting it to the league. And then the league calls him back and they're like, we heard that the guy on your team pulled a gun. And it comes up again later a couple of times as well. So it's like you have the one scene that you think this is a great scene. And then it's like, no, it continues to pay off throughout the movie. So.
I just love how he talks about the rules.
Yeah.
As he pulls out a gun.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is the United States. So, I mean, open carry in a bowling alley is probably norm down there. But
no kidding. No, my favorite scene, without a doubt, my favorite scene is the dream sequence when you've got the song, What Condition My Condition Is In, which I only recently learned was sung by Kenny Rogers of all people. And it's like the where he imagines he's in the porno. What is it called? The Gutter Balls.
Yep.
By a Treehorn production, Gutter Balls. And then he comes out and he's dressed in the maintenance man uniform that he saw on the screen when they were watching the porno movie earlier. It's like right down to the exact same tool belt. Because again, my wife turns to me and goes, I never understood why he's dressed like a repairman in the bowling alley. And I'm like, because that's exactly what he saw in the porno movie 20 minutes earlier in the thing. And then he comes out and he's just like, his character just looks like he's higher than a kite. It's just like the facial expressions and the weird dancing and then the steps and the choreography with the women dressed like the old time Valkyries. Just, it's so out of this world. It's just so perfect for this movie where it's like, what do you think is going to happen when he gets super high? What happens you think is going to happen when he takes a bang to the head? It's like, of course, this is what he's going to dream of and imagine. It's both awe-inspiring and hilarious at the same time. I love it. And you can just find that clip on YouTube. And from time to time I've done it. I'm just going to go watch this for a couple of minutes.
I think some of my favorite scenes involve John Goodman when I think about it. Like when he's assessing what to do and he's like, what we have here is a series of victimless crimes. Mm-hmm. And dude is like, what? Some girl just had her toe cut off. Like dude, and there's a kidnapping and everything else. And then John Goodman is like, he's like the stereotypical American. He is what people in other countries think Americans are like.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Loud, brash, dumb, pulls a gun, cocky, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I love how he refuses to do any activity of any kind on Saturday. He's like, it's the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And dude is like, you're not even Jewish. You're Irish Catholic. Like,
yeah,
it's so good. And then the thing is, though, he's this conspiracy theorist, but he actually gets a few things right.
Yeah.
Because throughout the movie, he keeps saying, these guys are amateurs. They're amateurs. But the thing is, he's right. Because the nihilists are a bunch of bumbling idiots. I mean, they bring a ferret to try to intimidate the dude. So.
Oh, that's a funny scene where he's in the tub and they just drop the ferret in. Like, again, I had to laugh. No, it's the scenes in the dude's apartment. Like all the scenes in the dude's apartment are great. They're either really funny or really interesting. And it's just like, oh no, like even right at the beginning where the guys break in and they're jamming his head in the toilet. And then the guy's like, isn't this guy supposed to be a millionaire? And it's like he looks around and he goes, does this look like I'm a millionaire? And then they're all like, oh yeah, maybe we made a mistake. It's just.
I also like the scene where Julianne Moore makes her first appearance, where she's like nude flying over this canvas, making a painting.
Oh, with all the paint? Yeah.
She has never shied away from nudity. That's for sure. Right? And the thing is, then she comes down off that harness, and the way she talks, the accent and sort of the staccato way she delivers her lines, it reminded me exactly of a girl that I did a play with back in 1992. She had the exact same character, it seemed. The actress I worked with, her name was Christine Devine. She was a fantastic actress. So amazing to work with. Anyway, it just a little bit of a personal note I just wanted to mention. But Julianne Moore just reminded me of her. But I thought that scene was pretty good too. So I have a question for you.
Come on.
What was Sam Elliott's purpose in this film? Just to act as a narrator?
Yeah, that's just one of those weird things where it's like he starts off as the narrator at the beginning and the end, and then he actually appears in the middle of the movie in the bowling alley at the bar, and he says, dude, I like your style, and he's like, oh, I like your style too. And it's like, so I don't know if these characters are supposed to know each other or if it's like if he's supposed to be the omniscient narrator that knows everything. Yeah, it's sort of like it's just one of these weird quirks where it's not really explained, but it doesn't really matter. And you can interpret it however you want. And I don't think there's a right and wrong answer so much, but it's interesting anyway. It certainly gives the movie additional character.
Also, another thing I'm thinking about, what was the meaning of the tumbleweed at the beginning of the film? Because that's how the film opened up. And I tried to figure out if it was like there was an allegory there, but I kind of came up empty.
Yeah, I don't know. There could be, there maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in the film too, but I guess that's part of its appeal.
It could be. I'm just sort of on the spot thinking about it. It could be like reflective of the idea that it's free of restriction. You see it blow through the whole city and all the way to the beach and into the ocean. It's like maybe it's sort of the idea that it's just a free spirit, just like these guys in the movie, like the dude. It's like, yeah, he's just going to do what he's going to do, and he's not going to be restricted by the things around him. I don't know.
When I first saw it at the beginning, I assumed this is an allegory for the lead character. He's just kind of tumbling through things. Yeah. And I don't know, but I had trouble connecting that. Do you want to give this movie a rating out of 10?
Oh, I'm probably going to go with about a 7.5. I've been listening back to some of our old episodes, and you often ask me what my ranking is. And I mean, I like this. It's got a lot to like, but, I think I need to be a little more conservative on this one, just knowing some of the other movies I've given 8 and 8.5. So I'm going to go with 7.5.
I would also give it a 7.5. Yeah. So tell your wife to put that in her pipe and smoke it.
Yeah, I should have taken that bet. I'd be $100 richer. But
yeah, no, I think 7.5 is a good place to be in this.
Yeah, movie. No, this is a good movie. It's a lot of people love it, and I think it's one of those ones that is rewatchable to a certain extent. Again, I wouldn't want to sit down and rewatch it again next week, but
no,
6 months, a year from now, if it comes on, I'll probably watch it again. I find every time I watch it, I find a new little detail out of it, and there's just something in there that I pick up that I didn't get the time before. And there's a lot of really good scenes in here that just, they make me laugh, they make me smile, it's entertaining. I like it.
I'm glad for you to open my eyes up to some new stuff for me. So
it's 25
new
years
stuff,
old.
25 years old. I've never seen it, so it's new for me. All right. On that note, let's do this.
Fun with Caveman.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about slackers in pop culture.
Okay.
All right, because this movie, we argued about it at the beginning. Is he a slacker? Is he not a slacker? All that stuff. But I think if you ask a lot of people, who's the biggest slacker in pop culture, they might mention this guy. I think that's fair to say. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to talk about some other slackers. I'm going to give you the character's name, and you have to give me the title of the pop culture entity that he comes from.
Okay.
Or her, for that matter. So whether it's a movie or a TV show, you just got to give me the title. Okay? So we're going to make it easy. We're going to start with an easy one here. Jeff Spicoli.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's correct. All right. Another easy one. Garth Algar.
Oh, that's Wayne and Garth. That's Wayne's World, parts 1 and 2.
And speaking of which, I feel like I just need to I just got to step away for a second here. I just got to go over here, and I'm gonna go over here, and I feel like I want to jump on the drums for a second and do something for you. So just hold on. How'd I do there? Okay.
Well, I'm worried that you're going to get divorced because I know your kids are sleeping upstairs. So
wake everybody
we better wrap this up quick before your wife comes down with a hatchet because I'm sure she's ready to kill you.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the next character, and again, you got to mention the movie or TV show they come from.
All right,
or whatever. Kumar Patel.
That's Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yes, I would have also accepted Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, I was going to say they did a bunch.
Inferior 2008 sequel, or even a very Harold and Kumar Christmas.
Right.
They apparently did that too in 2011.
Yeah.
All right.
It was good.
Here's one. John Bender.
That is, that's The Breakfast Club.
Here's an easy one for you. Randall Graves. Randall Graves.
Oh, Randall Graves. Oh my God. The name is like, I can picture it. I just can't think of the movie. Randall Graves. I don't know. I can't think of the movie.
Dude, it's from Clerks.
Oh, I knew I could picture him. I just couldn't picture.
All right. Peter Gibbons. Peter Gibbons.
Oh, that's from Office Space.
David Wooderson.
David Wooderson.
Yeah, David Wooderson. What slacker is that?
I don't know.
It's Matthew McConaughey's character in Dazed and Confused.
Oh, saw it once, didn't like it.
All right, I wasn't a big fan of it either. All right, here's one. Jughead Jones.
Wasn't Jughead from Archie?
Threw a little bit of a curveball. It's Archie Comics.
There we go. Okay.
All right. Barry Judd. Where's Barry Judd from? He's a slacker.
Jeez. Doesn't sound familiar. I don't know.
High Fidelity in 2000 was Jack Black's character.
Oh, again, saw it once, didn't like it.
All right. This one you should get, I think. Hoops McCann.
Yeah, that's John Cusack in One Crazy Summer.
All right. Earl Hickey. Where is Earl Hickey from?
Earl Hickey. The only Earl I can think of is from My Name is Earl.
Yes, Jason
nice
character. He was a slacker. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Moocher.
Moocher.
What slacker is Moocher?
That sounds like maybe Animal House.
No, I'm sorry. It was Breaking Away in 1979. Jackie Earl Haley's character. You ever seen Breaking Away?
No, I never even heard of it.
Dude, it is fantastic.
Wait, is that the bicycle movie?
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
All right, and is this the last one I got here? Let me just make sure it is the last one. It is the last one that I got. All right, John Blutarski.
That's Animal House.
Yeah. It is. He goes by Bluto all movie, but until the end. When the credits are rolling, they show what happens to the characters.
Isn't he like a senator or something?
Yeah, Senator and Mrs. John Blutarski. All right, so you did pretty good. So next time it's over to me to pick a film to review. Got to be one celebrating a major milestone.
I was going to say, have you seen any movies that are celebrating a 25th anniversary?
No, I think I'm going to go back further than that, Derek.
That seems about your speed.
I want to go back 45 years. We're going all the way back to 1978. There was a time back then when Warren Beatty wasn't just this good-looking actor who slept his way through Hollywood. Oh, no. He was actually one of the most talented filmmakers there for a while. And he gets a lot of cred for directing Reds in 1981. He was nominated for like a boatload of Oscars for that. But before that, in 1978, he directed and starred in a film that was also critically acclaimed and was nominated for a boatload of Oscars. And that is the film I want to go back and review. It's Heaven Can Wait. Are you familiar with it at all, Derek?
I've never seen it. I've heard of it. I'm sort of loosely familiar with the general premise, but no, I've never seen it. And I've heard good things about it, but it's, again, I'm not a huge Warren Beatty fan. And you know me, this 78, like I was only 4 years old, so a little before my time. Yep. But I'll dig it up. I'll go back and I'll give it a try. I mean, I just watched Bugsy not too long ago with Warren Beatty, and I did not like it.
Right, you mentioned that. Yeah.
Was not a fan of that one. So hopefully this is definitely a better work.
It was critically acclaimed. It was a huge box office hit. It was good. It was good. I want to see if you like it. So Heaven Can Wait next time that we come back. So until then, this is Chris McBrien on behalf of myself and Derek Myers saying thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World. You can contact Chris and Derek at popgoesyourworld.com. Please take a minute and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.